on this computer. Okay, we're live and we're recording. So hi, Jenny. It's great to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I was really looking forward to this because, we have a history or, kind of feel like we're friends. We're friends. So coming here and I'm interviewing women to find out what their steps were, what your steps were to get out of corporate, what were you feeling, what steps did you take, and any advice that you have for other women in this really difficult time too. It might be just women who are worried about whether they've got a job to go to after lockdown as well. So I'm hoping that, or have got some real gold out of the women that I've interviewed so far. But I also like to let people know that I'm launching a 5-day challenge, Find Your Passion and Live on Purpose, on the 17th of August. So I've got some really great topics that I'll be talking about, because I found that all the women I've spoken to, over 150 women over the last 3 years, have all got something they're passionate about, but they haven't found a way to actually make it into something that's a business. And but once you do, then you're living on purpose. And once you live on purpose, and everything flows, the stress goes away. So I'm leading this 5-day challenge to lead women into finding their passion and purpose. And I always say, if you put form and function around your passion and purpose, the money comes. So, Jenny, how are you today? And tell us about your business and a bit about yourself and your business.
Okay. Hello, and thank you for having me. I love a chat. This is exciting to be part of. I currently work with clients to create compelling messaging in their business, mostly video messages, so scripts, but not just video, content across posts and articles and blogs and whatever people need to really get their message out there to the clients they're trying to attract. And so I'm used to be a copywriter, and I'll explain that in a second when we go through the steps from what happened from corporate onwards. Whereas really I focus on that video confidence, making sure we are speaking directly to that client that we're trying to attract. That's really the core little kernel of everything I do.
I think that's should be at the center of what everyone does when they're in business. Like, once you get that really sweet spot, when you're talking, that your clients so well that everything just flows. So yeah, tell us a little bit about you personally, and then about how you got to where you are.
So before I had kids, I'd always worked pretty much in all of my adult life with groups of people, facilitating process improvement groups, facilitating training and cultural change programs at Telstra, and then in recruitment. And then Hunter was born in 1999, and I think I took about a year off, but I was really looking forward to getting back into that environment again. And so I started as a contractor in about 2000, maybe 2001. And even though I've worked for big companies on projects in that time, I was essentially a contractor. So I have a master's in education and training, and all of my graduate and postgraduate quals are in teaching adults, basically. And so I did that till 2014. And during that year, and I've been a single parent for a decade now. So at that time, it had been about 4 years, and I've got 3 boys, and it was a real struggle. So my eldest was very difficult at the age of 14, more than he'd ever been before. And I just remember thinking one day, I went to this corporate contract, and we were working on a really large IT upgrade project, and there were heaps of project leads, and I was creating the online training programs and some of the in-person ones as well for different facets of the organisation. And I just stood there one day and thought, none of the managers in the strategic team actually give a shit about the human beings who are at the other end of whatever the hell this change is for. Oh, it's going live on the 1st of December. Why? Oh, just because that's when it's available. Well, what if they're not ready by the 1st of December? What if the humans whose business day to day you are changing with this system aren't ready? And I realised that they just didn't care. And I just thought, I honestly don't want to be in this environment anymore. But also, because of the difficulties that were happening at home with the boys, I just really needed to step away and be home and be available and be, I guess, make a conscious decision to be a good parent, which of course, as we all know, takes a lot of commitment and time and energy and your own resources and your mental strength and all of those things. And I moved away from corporate at that time and had a little break, a few months break. And then, I decided that I wanted to be a copywriter. And that was because I wanted to withdraw a little and be away from the people. But of course, that's rubbish because I am a rampant extrovert, and that didn't last for very long. It was clear to me that I needed to get back into working with groups of people, being out and about and available and having conversations. And I don't like the sort of toing and froing on email that a lot of copywriting entails. I'm so not interested in that. Yeah, so I moved around my copy business to focusing on video, writing scripts, helping people really understand what words need to come out of their mouth. Given that that's my core skill anyway, it made sense. But it took me that probably 12 months to really come to that conclusion after leaving corporate.
Mm.
And I think everybody goes through that transition of, I shouldn't say that, you'll know what I mean. I'm a splurger. So I would leave and make a decision later and get on with it. Whereas someone else is going to agonize over the decision and research. That is so not me. But neither of those is a wrong approach, I don't believe.
I agree.
So I'm the first kind. Like if you said to me, write a book, I would just start writing. I'd plan it a little bit, but I'd basically start writing and then I'd worry about it later. Whereas other people might take a year, 2 years, 3 years to think about, what's going on. And neither of them are wrong, but I'm certainly the take the leap, work that stuff out later as you go kind of person.
One of the courses I did early on in my personal development career, Laurel Langmeyer, she said, say yes and find a way. Say yes and do it anyway. And I think, look, I'm a bit guilty of getting caught up in my own head and, thinking about putting barriers up and being in my head like I can't, instead of, I've changed my thinking recently. It's just like, how am I going to get it done? Rather than, looking at all the problems, like looking at how I can get it done. So if you go out and get it done, and somebody said to me years ago too, lead with your sword, not with your shield. So go in and do it and apologize later.
Yeah. So my tagline is stop thinking, start doing. And the reason that is such an important mantra for me is that even though I said I'm a splurger, I am also an overthinker. So if you said to me, I want you to do this work, I would agonize over details, not because I'd be worried about the feedback or letting someone down, not about myself. It's really fascinating when you work with all sorts of different people and you think, who are the perfectionists and why are they perfectionists? And usually it's because they're overthinking it and actually it's an excuse to sort of avoid getting something wrong, not because I don't trust that I'm good enough or that I can do it or that I know my stuff. But there's that voice that says, oh, you don't want to upset that person or get it wrong or, and so that makes us hold back a little bit. So I think I love that sort of stop thinking, start doing, lead with the sword, take action, because that's where the learning is. I'm sure you'll agree with that. No amount of learning happens when I just sit here and think about stuff. Not really.
I also think, looking back on my journey and different things that I've done along the way, and other people, talking to Carmel yesterday, and she's done a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of that. But I don't think that you can't just get from here to there. Like you have to go that journey. Like you wouldn't have got to the next step if you didn't take this part, and you wouldn't have got to that part. You take a little bit from each one. And if you think that you're going to go from A zip to B, that's not how it works. There is learning. Try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, and you know what? None of it's wrong. And it's all going to work out. Another one of my favorite mentors said, it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
That's the truth of it. You can think, maybe I shouldn't do this or maybe I shouldn't do that. She said, it all works out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. There's two sort of things that I wasn't expecting, and I wondered if you wanted me to share them as well.
Yeah.
And the first one was the grieving process. So I think a lot of people, and I didn't really have a mentor or anybody to talk to about it. I just said, I'm not ever working like that again. I'm not going back to a full-time contract like that again. I don't want to work with people that I don't even respect or admire ever again. And I thought, okay, you've got to leave behind teaching people and the value that I bring to the training room and the value that I bring to the design and all that sort of stuff. And so I grieved for that for ages before I realized that I was.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, why did you think you had to sort of cut that off and not bring 25 years of experience and a deep love of that work? Why did you think that you had to leave that behind? And I think if somebody had said to me at the time, you can actually feel all those things at the same time, and you can do all those things at the same time, but in a different environment with different people, and that would be okay. I
Mm.
just sort of felt like I had to make this sweeping change.
Mm.
I don't know.
I know that I've grieved, because I was on a corporate trajectory, flying all around Australia, highly regarded, and so I know that I grieved that life, and sometimes still I do. On the other hand, because having Imogen, um, it means I've had to reinvent myself. But the other thing out of that, I used to think that I had to recreate the same thing. Like I was selling medical equipment, and I used to think the only way that I could work for myself was recreating that same life in a business for myself, and I'm $30 million and all that. But you don't. I
Mm,
found that you have transferable skills, like in writing grants. And I looked at it and I thought, how come I can just flip out a grant like that? How come other people can't do that? And then I went, because I'm used to writing sales proposals. And so that was a transferable skill. So what I'd really like women to know is, these transferable skills that you're talking about, transferable skills that you take across, and use in a different way. Well, you kind of using for yourself. But there are things that in different ways you can use your skills.
yeah, and that that we don't always know how it's going to play out, of course, until
No.
we try some stuff. So yes, there's courage in there too, to sort of say, I'm going to give this thing a try. Don't really know if, anyone's going to want to work with me or pay me, or so that sort of, you learn as you go a lot in moving away from corporate and deciding to either be a freelancer, which is essentially what I am, created a job for myself in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It takes longer than you think. And I think we've got to give ourselves more permission that it's a long game, that it's not ever going to be, you don't suddenly have the penny drop and all the right things happen and everything's in place at the right time at the same time, that it's actually, iterative. You end up sort of, this thing is going right and you feel like you've really moved 2 steps forward, and then you realize you don't know something else and you feel like you're moving backwards. But actually, to me, that's just all part of that building a brand, and it takes time, and we've got to give ourselves permission to do that part of it.
So it's like a barn dance rather than a line dance.
Never thought about it like that. Don't see myself as a barn dancer exactly, but anyway.
But I think permission and the stuff about time, because I'm doing things and I'm looking after Imogen and she's 24/7 care in reality, and I think, why haven't I got that done? Why haven't I got that? And then I go, hang on a minute, hang on, give yourself a break. Like, would you have got this done otherwise? And there's been these other things that I've also got done. So I think there's a lot of giving ourselves permission in there.
Yeah, really very good point. And surrounding yourself with the right people is really a big part of that, isn't it? And we don't always know what that looks like either. And so it's okay to be part of communities and try and see who you trust and hang out with the people that get you. And even like you and I, we probably don't speak for months, and then we'll have a messenger conversation for a while. And that's the sort of thing that has also made a really big difference, I think, over the journey for me, it's been, oh my God, 6 years, I think, coming up 6 years since I finished that contract, which makes me horrified. It feels like, I think I lost 3 years somewhere in there. I can't quite remember, but that's what it's like, raising kids and and trying to build your own business baby at the same time.
Yeah, you got to give yourself the chance to be able to care for the kids. Was there another? So one thing was the grief of losing a job. Was there something else that you?
Oh, the time that it takes longer than
Uh,
we think.
yeah,
And there is one other thing that I really wish I'd done differently, and that is implement more often instead of thinking that everybody else had the answer and spending money on too much, I think, strategy and learning online stuff instead of just implementing. I should have paid someone to help me implement things. So if I had money in my kitty for marketing, I
yeah,
wish I'd spent it on someone like a VA or an online business manager who would have put those things in place for me and let me get on with meeting potential clients and speaking to people. I wish we didn't think that everybody else had a better answer than we intuitively know,
yeah. That's
because
that's really
mm,
good advice, because
mm,
it is all up here. And
mm,
if you stop and listen, you find the answer.
we know so much more than we think we do.
Yeah,
And I know the technology of running an online business, or perhaps going into selling an online course or whatever. Yes, there's a technical aspect of that either you want to learn and do yourself, or you could outsource it. But most of the other stuff we really already know.
yeah. A
And
coaching question a coach always asks is or would ask me. So you don't know the answer, but if you did know, what would the answer be? Because and if you think about what would the answer be, and what's the first thing, and I've done a whole lot of processes with hypnotherapy now and magnetic mind, accessing what those answers are, and they do come up.
mm.
You do have the answers there.
So you've just got to be quiet enough to hear them, do you think? And I'm too noisy.
No, it's just about taking the time. I
Mm.
don't think anyone's too noisy. And I think, everybody, I was thinking about, some people do it this way and some people do it that way. And, there's different coaches that say do it this way or that. But I think it's right for you, whatever's right for you.
Mm.
And I think I've learnt that. Would I have been like this if I didn't have Imogen? I don't know. Since I've had Imogen, having a child with disabilities, and I think, those families do things differently to what, and I've had to do things differently to what I ever thought I might. So I think that, what's right for you is right for you.
Mm.
And don't think, well, just because they're telling you to do it this way, it doesn't mean that's right, but it's what's right for you.
Yeah. And
Because,
just take action. You know what's at the very heart of all of this for every business person that I work with or hang out with is the absolute belief that there is a human being who needs what I have to offer right now. Someone actually needs me right now, today.
yeah,
And if I think about that and what does that person need, it always turns my productivity around. It always turns my reluctance or my thinking or my overthinking or my um, that anxiety around, is this the right or wrong thing to do? It doesn't matter. If you've got to put yourself, be available for the people who need you. That's how you grow a business, I think.
I
It
love
always it turns my thinking around all the time.
absolute belief that there's somebody that needs you right now. Right now it was me.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give anyone who's in corporate now, or in a professional, or maybe they might have lost their job through COVID? What would you give them into stepping into something?
You know how if you spoke to a business manager or an accountant, they'd say you need to test the viability of your product. There needs to be a need in the market for your product. So that's one side of the coin. The
Mm-hmm.
other side of the coin is, what do you genuinely love to do that you are highly expert and skilled at doing, that you can turn into a different product or service? I went with that one. Now, some people will say create a new product because they're moving with the market and what the market needs, but then they don't particularly enjoy it and it's not very profitable potentially. So I still go back to, what do you genuinely love to do? So when you feel like you're completely in the zone and there's no overthinking or stress about it, you actually feel it energizes you, makes you feel good. There's something in that. What is that skill that you would like to translate into a new? So yes, transferable skills. Yes, have the agility to deliver it differently or whatever. But I would be really reflecting on. I remember when I was made redundant from Telstra a million years ago, like 1997 or 8 or something. And I remember at the time being quite pleased, like I was quite happy. I was 28 or something at the time. And I went to an outplacement specialist who said, let's do this questionnaire. And one of my most important elements came up as lifestyle. And she said, that is really common because you've been made redundant. You've got all this time on your hands. Lifestyle suddenly becomes really important to you. Whereas before it might've been learning or wisdom or teaching or working or whatever. And I think that in that moment, if you've been made redundant or you know that that's going to happen, the decision over what you really love to do might be slightly tainted by the environment that the things you're experiencing at the moment. So try and look more expansively at what you actually have loved for your career and what would you like to be doing, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years from now, rather than thinking just in the microcosm of how that feels in the moment. Because I know that it's not a great feeling. A lot of people will be very nervous and very upset and worried at the moment, but you are really expert at something, and really feel into what is that thing and what could I turn that into, and not think about the circumstances. Don't let that make the decision for you is probably what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, well, I've been talking about uncover your gold, find your gold and turn it into cash, because I think we all have gifts to bring. But the other thing that just came to me is, when my ex left and then I was looking to get back into work, and when I finally got a job, it wasn't about the money. I mean, the money, I was one day a week, so it was a little bit extra income, but it was about being with people. It was about feeling valued. And I think if we can do something that, we use our passion and purpose, our transferable skills and the things that we love to do, we can start to feel valued and we can bring that to the community, then we feel like we're in flow.
That's right. And that's where the ideas creatively can come to people, don't you think? Like you're slightly more relaxed because you're in a good environment, and then ideas come to you, I think, more readily because you're not focused on anxiety or feeling really worried, or different from mental health concerns that definitely need support right now. But more than anything, just feeling, if you feel a little more relaxed, you can, by doing all the things you've just said, I think you then get ideas about, this is a great idea for a podcast, or, hey, I might just start making videos about something that, things that are happening to me right now. And then that suddenly becomes its own little, it gets a life of its own and can turn into something else.
Pretty amazing. I was just listening to a video, and, people think that they can't make money. And I was watching a video, and he said there's a 7-year-old kid making millions of, he's the richest kid online or something, making money unwrapping toys.
Yep.
So, things are amazing what you can do online and the things that you can make money out of, and, that saying about, you think that things are really bad or a stupid idea, but somebody's made a lot of, millions of dollars out of the pool noodle.
Yeah. A little bit of weird, whatever it is. I don't even know what it's made.
Yeah. Somebody came up with that idea, and, everyone's got one.
Yeah. Yep. It's so, there's a lot of ideas, and I think a lot of that creativity comes from taking action, and then reflecting on, did that work? How do I feel about that? Rather than just sitting back and planning all the time.
Yeah. And that's what I did in this interview series. I decided I'd go out and interview people and see what their steps were, and so much gold in it. So I really appreciate you coming on today, Jenny, and it's been great to chat to you.
You are welcome.
Yeah. So so if anyone wants to contact you, we'll put your link in the Facebook group. And it's been great. So bye for now.
Bye everyone.